In this video, we're going to have a look at a couple different ways that you can hide totals from specific columns in your tables or matrix visuals in Power BI. We're going to have a look at each of these different solutions and what to bear in mind if you want to start using them. All of that and more. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, my name is Fernan, and welcome to the Solutions Abroad YouTube channel, where we cover tips, tricks, and best practices when working with Power BI. I upload new videos every week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when a new one is out. So hiding totals from specific columns in your tables is something that you will encounter fairly frequently. There might be some different reasons why you want to show totals in some columns but not another, because those other columns don't actually make sense when they are summarized. Let me show you an example. So here is a table that I created in my Power BI desktop file here. So it's basically a detailed version of the different orders that have been made for this fictional company Northwind, which if you didn't know yet, is a fictional company that we are using for this demo purposes. And it's basically an international grocery-based company, and they sell goods internationally. So in this case, we have information like for every single order, what products were ordered in those, when they were ordered, how many were ordered, and the unit price of each of these products. From there, we can measure the sales, which is basically basing off of the quantity of that product and the unit price of that product. So in this table, we're basically visualizing the sales, the unit price, and quantity of each of these products. And if you focus at the bottom here, we have some totals here that we are showing for each of these different elements. So we have the quantity, the unit price, and the sales. So we have the total quantity and the total sales here as a column. However, what you notice, we have the unit price here, which is summing up the unit price for each of these orders, which in our case doesn't really make that much sense. So adding up the unit price doesn't really give any insights, and actually, it doesn't really make sense to show as a total. So you might have some instances where, in this case, for example, you want to hide this one, but you want to show the total sales and the quantity total summed up. The easiest way that you can do this is by removing the summarization on this column. So in this case, for example, in this specific scenario that we are on the lowest granular level of our data, which is basically towards the order details side of things. If we simply go to the unit price here in the columns well, and here you can see that we have the summarization, which is the default one to be sum. If you remove that and say don't summarize, there we go. So as you can see, it does just remove the unit price for each of these orders, and it just shows us a blank total on this specific column because it's not being summarized and added up as a total. And as I mentioned, it only works in this specific scenario because we are visualizing our data in the lowest granular level, which is on the order details, which basically means that every row of data is not being summarized in any way. So there's no groupings happening. However, the removing the summarization on a group table might cause you some issues. So let's have a look at an example here. So let's say let's actually let's create a new page just to keep it clean. Let's say we want to go category name, and then we want to add some of those information, right? So quantity, unit price, and sales. So the sales we created as a measure. And let's say we want to do the same thing here. So you go to the unit price, you click on the data options here, and change the summarization to don't summarize. So as you can see, it breaks the grouping, because what it does is, instead of rolling up that unit price and summarizing it by different categories, removing the summarization means that it breaks it down into its lower granular form, which is, in this case, for every single product in every single orders. Another thing to bear in mind is that this summarization, or the not summarization, is only something that's applicable if you're using columns to put in your table. So for example, if we use measures, because these measures don't have a row context, it is summarized in the DAX code itself. So for example, we have the sales here, which is a measure, and you will see that there is no option for you to change the summarization. And that's because we do the summarization inside the DAX measure itself. So you won't have that option here. But we'll come to this option in a little bit. For now, let's have a look at another example of a simple solution that you can apply. In this case, let's have a look at implementing some visual hiding in this case. So if we click on the table visual here and under specific column, we're going to change the series here to look at the unit price, which is the column that we want to adjust. And then from here, as you can see, you can adjust the font color for this specific column, and you can apply this to different parts of this column itself. So in this case, it's applied to values, but if we change that to something else, it can apply to everything or just some of it. So let's test this out actually. So let's change the text color of this to be white instead of nothing. So as you can see, it applied that to the values. However, that's not actually where we want to apply it. We want to apply it to the totals. So we're going to toggle the total here and then disable the values here. As you can see, it's hiding us the totals without hiding the unit price values, which is exactly what we wanted. Now, while this solution works and it's a pretty simple one to implement actually if you didn't want to mess around with DAX, is that you have to be wary of using themes or custom themes. So if you add backgrounds that are images, or you have different colored themes, you have to make sure that the text that you set for this total is the same color as the background to make it invisible, visually speaking. Another thing that you might not want this for is if you're giving your users the ability to export these tables. So for example, being able to export this table means that it will also export the totals, which visually speaking, you can't see it here. However, if it gets exported into a data form like Excel, it will show this total. So just be careful of those scenarios if you want to use this method. So if you don't want any of those drawbacks, we can actually fix this directly in DAX, which means that we won't have to deal with any of these visual or summarization solutions, but actually use some functions to determine if the value should be shown, if it's in a total or if it's in a value form. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new measure for our new unit price to hide it if it's a total and to show it if it's not a total. In this case, we're going to just call it unit price to make it absolutely simple. And we're going to use this this function called HASONEVALUE. Now, this is a function that I covered a few years back, and it's a simple function that basically returns a true or false if that specific column that you feed in it is being summarized or if it's being shown as one value. Now, in my video, I used a different example, but this is also another way that you can use the HASONEVALUE. So let me show you how that looks like, first of all, before I start building my showing the unit price. So let's use HASONEVALUE here, and let's put categories name here to check if this column has one value. Now, if you hit enter here and let's bring it into the table, as you can see, it shows true if the categories name here has one value, and in the total here it shows false. So we can take advantage of this rule to show or hide the value based on these rules. So we're going to go back to that measure that we created. We're going to wrap it with an if statement. So let's say if it has one value, we simply want to show the sum of the quantity, or sorry, unit price. And the else statement will simply leave blank because we don't really need to define if it's blank or not. If it's not defined, then it just shows blank. So here you go. So as you can see, it's already showing us on the table here that if we are showing unit price, or if there's only one value in that, it will show the value. And if it's a total, it's just hiding it, and it's not visually hidden or doing any other solution here. There's another function that you can use that does exactly the same thing, which is called ISFILTERED. And if you notice, if I just replace this function with ISFILTERED, it does exactly the same thing, which is also another option for you to use if you want to. And another thing to note on this measure here is that although we didn't define the false statement here, so if it's a total value, because we want this to be blank, if we don't want this to be blank and we want to show something else here, we can adjust this this property. So for example, we want to show a text here as an alternative value in the total. We simply just add that false statement here. So the false, let's just say unit price here. Or actually, let's just put the random text here. Let's just say all. So there you go. So as you can see, you have now a custom value on your totals that is controlled using DAX. And that's really it for this video. I hope you now know these couple different ways that you can use to modify and hide your total values in your table and matrix visuals in Power BI. Thanks for watching. As usual, give this video a like if you found it useful. Give it a dislike if you didn't, so to do better for next time. Ask your questions in the comment section box below so I can help you and you can help others. If you like this video, we have a Patreon page where you can support the channel and get exclusive perks like early access, demo files, and credits at the end of these videos. Thanks again for watching and see you in the next one. Bye bye.